I'm Allison. Welcome back to the interview series. Today, my special guest is Melissa from DoodleLovely, and we have actually known each other for, I guess, quite a few years now, and I
Mhm.
love everything that you do. So, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about DoodleLovely and where this whole business concept came from?
Absolutely. Thank you, Allison. It's lovely to see you and be here. And always a pleasure to be able to kind of just with like-mindedness be able to bring all these ideas to life on the platform. So thanks for having me. So I am from the East Coast of Canada. And my original job, I say my original, is in design and communications and really in the actual corporate world. And it took me all around the world, which was amazing. So I had lots of great experiences. But one thing that came out of the corporate experience specifically was I found myself quite burnt out by juggling all the balls of life. So being able to be on with a job, with children, with all the different kind of different things that we're all trying to as well be a part of, it certainly took a toll. And it took a toll to a point where it was like, well, I can't do anything more, and so it stopped me in my tracks. And unfortunately, I had the bad stress, the chronic stress, and had to really reevaluate my life. And so this is where Doodle Lovely actually came from, because really, unbeknownst to me, knowing that creativity has such great power, especially in the healing process, it was about me being picking up a pen and doodling that actually started my journey into the healing process and actually becoming a whole business entity for myself and being able to share what I went through and the tool and how everybody can use it, and making sure that that was a bit of my mission to always make sure that I could share what really brought me back to greater health and happiness.
Amazing.
Mm.
So, what are, I guess, the benefits of doodling and what kind of doodling do you encourage people to do?
Great question. So, doodling, I mean, there's so many benefits, and this is why I love to speak about doodling because really, for so long, people in general, it had such a bad reputation. You'd think, oh my gosh, you're not that person's not paying attention. Oh, you're just aimlessly, your mind's wandering, and it had quite a negative connotation. And so, really, now when neuroscientists and psychologists and people are really starting to look at doodling as a tool, and certainly who brought it on the map was Sunny Brown, who's she's extraordinary in the doodling field as well. And really what we've gathered and been able to establish is that benefits, like not only is it stress relieving because it's actually lowering your cortisol levels when you're going through the act of doodling, but it's actually helping with things like even mindfulness, being in the present moment, because again, you're fully present when you've got your hand and your pen connected, and so it's helping people move through that space of dealing with stress and anxiety, and also moving along to things like really boosting that creativity. And why I say, if you're someone that says, well, I'm not creative, that's the gift of this, is doodling is for everyone. If you can do lines and shapes, you're good to go. And in this world, especially when we're looking at things like trying to really come up with it, creativity and innovation, we also are looking for a thing, really being able to know that we can find tools that can help us through that process. So doodling ignites our minds, and so it doesn't actually put it to sleep, it ignites especially. There's lots of other benefits. There's all kinds, and that's the whole purpose of really what Doodle Lovely is here to educate people with.
I love that. So, I have a certain, I guess, doodling strategy. No, it's not a strategy because I don't think about it that much. But
Yeah.
do certain types of people doodle differently? Like I'm a hearts and stars and flowers. Like when I doodle when I'm listening to something, like that's what I always draw, or I like write my name. So are there different things that different people are kind of drawn to, or I'm curious.
Absolutely. And again, this is a whole other, I know we're just hitting on little highlights of this whole doodling journey, but you're a heart doodler. And what I would say to you and all your listeners and people that were watching is that each of us actually have an inner or household doodle. So if you're doing if you're doing hearts, well, funny enough, I'm very much all about florals. I'm definitely a floral person. And so, but somebody may be geometrics, and some people may just actually like to doodle their name over and over and over repetitively. So everybody has their own way to doodle. This is the power of doodling, is that it's 100% authentic to you, and it's really something that each of us have that own inner doodle to basically awake and find what that is.
Wow. Yeah. And you've created some tools to help people doodle. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
I sure have. I know myself that when I was going through this process of even healing, it's like small steps, small increments, and also please share with me how to do it. And so the Doodle Lovely products are really most, I mean, they're all guided products. So they actually help you go through a journey and build that, I would say, calm, clarity, creativity, and confidence from within. And so the guided aspect as well is it's always me being there with you in that journey, just in terms of if you need that little bit of assistance that you can kind of move along as you go through. Now for the doodlers that go, well, I don't want guidance. There's also products that will help you, just be able to freely doodle. You don't always have to go with the guided books, but we really do try to build lots of different doodle tools that will really help everyone go in and find and meet you where you're at. That's really the important part about the whole thing with the Doodle products.
Yeah, I love that. And I also often will give your products as gifts to people that I'm working with.
Thank
So
you.
I love I love that. I think they're so unique and innovative.
Thank you.
Um, you're welcome. Anyone who follows me knows that I am a huge, huge advocate for self-care. That's one of
Mhm.
the big things that I talk about all the time.
Yeah.
Um, and I kind of see doodling as being this time to kind of pause, to give yourself an opportunity to think.
Mhm.
Um, I, one of the things that I talk about all the time is that, we make ourselves so busy. We forget to make time to just sort of sit and think and reflect and process. So, what would you say about doodling and self care?
Well, I love that you're like the ambassador to the voice behind self-care because, again, it's another term that's been really misunderstood, I would say, over the past X amount of years. So really understanding what self-care means for individuals. And for me specifically, finding those activities was the doodling tool was a huge self-care tool because it was something that nurtured myself in the day, and that was a huge part of my self-care toolbox. And so I think that really when you're actually in the act of doodling, to your point, it allows that space and that mind to rest and just rejuvenate and reset to then go back to whatever needs to happen. And because our lives are so full, being able to take a little break, and I'm all about small and simple
Mm,
breaks. That's why doodling is so powerful because you can do it anywhere. You can start, stop. You can do how it fits in. If you only have 1 minute, you can do it for a minute. If you have 10 minutes, you can do it for 10 minutes. It becomes like a really expandable tool that you can use anywhere and in a way that suits your day. So that's really handy, especially when living in a kind of a busy lifestyle.
yeah,
Yeah.
wow. You spoke at the beginning about kind of your own personal journey,
Hmm.
when you were working and feeling really overwhelmed and burnt out.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us that I feel like I connect with that do the work in this world, kind of well-being world, we all have our own journey that has brought us to this work. What would you, or if you were to talk to your former self, or if there's things that you know now that you wish you knew then, um, what I'm trying to say is, I know so many people out there are struggling, particularly right now. I just feel like there is so much stress and overwhelm, particularly those working in the corporate world. So, what would you tell your former self, or what do you know now or what have you done differently now that you wish you knew then?
Well, I think the first thing is I always thought I was taking care of myself. That was the irony of the whole thing. And so you don't know what you
Mm.
don't know. So I would say that's the first thing is really looking at where, like going in and really looking at where you're at mentally, physically, and doing those check-ins. Because as much as I thought I was taking care of myself, I wasn't also doing those check-ins. And so that's a big piece that would always look back and again, hope everyone can take that time to be able to do that for themselves. The next thing that's really, really important is being able to not be afraid of taking breaks. We're in a world that's like go, go, do. You're wasting time if you're sitting, if you're having a cup of tea. My gosh, you got to get into the next thing. And I think that that's like in itself, and when we're talking about the mind and how we perceive the world, it really, I go, yes, I needed to work hard, growing up and then really gonna building a successful profession. But at the same time, you can get there in a very similar way and be super healthy doing so. And that was the when I look back, I go, wow, if I could have just been able to say, actually take a break and feel good about that, that would be another piece.
Wow. I love that. I feel like I just keep saying wow. That's not even a word. It's not even a word that's normally, in my day to day. But that resonates with me so much. I feel like people, like it's like we're not taught these skills, even though it
No.
seems really fundamental and basic. Um, the concept of slowing down to improve just doesn't seem to really be out there in the world, that we can actually accomplish more by taking a break.
Yeah.
Is so powerful, and the more I can have these conversations, the better I think it is. And um it seems counterintuitive, but yet you know it, I know it. Anyone who's kind of been through that cycle knows it, right? It's like if we actually slow down, we can do just as much or more, be more productive because we're at peak wellness.
Absolutely. Well, so again, comes back to that clarity aspect and being really, clear in how you move about your day because you can be busy all day long and really not get much done. And also feel really mentally drained, exhausted. And so I guess, again, being able to share for me, it's about being really, really intentional, being very, very clear, and being able to get jobs done more efficiently so I have more of that time. Again, it's just being able not to make my schedules full, but just being a lot more, well, just being able to kind of tighten up everything so that I can make more powerful, work, and I can also get through it a lot easier and enjoy it more. Because I think when you're dragging all the time and when life is overwhelming, it's like, okay, do we want to keep repeating that because we're depleting ourselves? Or what is that way that can actually help us kind of stop and shift that mindset or that way to kind of move through those busy times? And interesting enough, with all the science and the research, breaks are, it's out now as a huge thing, especially in the corporate profession, that how breaks are so imperative to be able to restore that thinking, that clarity, and also being able to know that we can't sit here and work 8 straight hours in a day and be really on the top of our game. So let's be realistic with what we want to achieve in a day, how we want to feel, and then design our day around that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love to see, small changes coming around that, and seeing different types of organizations really kind of embrace that. I think that's really fabulous. Melissa, what do you do, or what kinds of things do you do to support your own wellness and well being right now? Maybe besides doodling.
I was just gonna say, I just doodled before we came on. I did a little doodle. Uh, that's my little way of getting really centered. Well, I a big thing is for me and nature, being connected with nature. That's another extension. That's something I desperately love and need, to be able to even just go out, even if it's like for a 2 minute like little jaunder around the yard if I don't have too much time in the day, or if I go out and I see our chickens. Chickens bring me quite a lot of joy, and so that's one of my big ways. It may look different and all different depends on my day, but it's always part of it. Another big piece of self-care that I like to instill is journaling. I do a lot of journaling, and
Mm.
again, just that ability to not sit there and have to perfect or write, these novels, but to go in and just to be able to, really give that mind an opportunity to decompress and download and just, again, allowing it to take it wherever it wants to be. So I never start a journal with anything really sitting there consciously trying to perfect or do. I just allow those words to travel out. So again, I guess that's a form of doodling with the tip of the pen. But
Yeah.
those are two big spots. Is nature, which is a lot of I do a lot of physical activity with that as well.
Great. Now you just held up and showed us your doodle. And I
Yes.
and I sometimes it's beautiful.
Thank you.
Sometimes on your social media you'll do live doodling as well, where people can see you doodling in like real time, I guess. Now, here's a thing I wonder if you get asked a lot. When I look at that, I think, oh gosh, that doodle is so like professional looking. It's like a professional doodle. So what about what about people who are like, "Ugh." I mean, I know you said it's just lines and shapes. What do you say to people who are maybe overthinking it and feel like it has to look a certain way?
Well, that's a very much and that's a really, really great piece of feedback, Allison. Thank you. And people are often like, "Wow, your doodles are really, really great." And I'm like, I don't even look at it as a great piece of art or anything. It's about process. So wherever you are at with your doodling, so it doesn't matter if you're like, I haven't picked up a pen since I was 7 years old and done something like this. It's being allowed to give yourself permission to go on to a page and to see wherever it takes you. It's not about creating a masterpiece. It's not about you're going in, and I will give an example because I know you're saying, okay, well, yours doodles look really, really lovely, but and that's really nice. Thank you. I doodle a lot, so that's I guess that's where it's got me. And everybody that doodles a lot and you continue to doodle, everybody will always build their confidence and skill set. But what ends up happening as we go through doodling is, like you said, it's based on lines and shapes, very basics. Okay, so everybody again when somebody picks up a pen and says, oh, I'm not a good doodler, well, there's no such thing as a good doodler. Like literally it comes out however it comes out. So being able to give it, like I said, that permission to go on the page and start somewhere is the biggest piece. It's about being active. And so, and anytime your mind
Yeah.
wants to tell you, walking in the background saying, oh, really, this looks terrible. It's about saying, if you're able to, thank you, but I don't need to hear you right now. I'm just going to continue on my little journey. So I mean, it's a much bigger conversation in terms of how do we get our mind to stop chattering, to stop us from actually proceeding with things that we kind of are really interested in, want to do. Doodling, again, if we keep it really basic and really simple, start on a page with just even your favorite shape and just going with that flow and finding the flow, or just listening to your body, or whatever, in that, being able to bring a little bit of stillness to that moment. That's like a huge win. So you don't have to,
Mm.
it doesn't have to be a looking perfected doodle. It doesn't have to be that. I don't start out with any ideas half the time.
Yeah, that's great. And I think too, what I'm hearing is that it's more about the process. It's about the journey, not about the destination or the end result. Like, who cares? We're not putting it up in an art gallery, right? It's just, and I know I often, for me, when I would doodle the most, when I'm on the phone for a long time, if I was in meetings for a long time, you just kind of free flow in the corner of your notebook or something. So, yeah, no one has to see it. It can be just for you.
Well, and it can, and that's like that just ties into one of the big benefits of doodling. And clearly, when you're doodling on the phone or when you're in that meeting, that's your tool to actually help you listen. And
Yeah,
again,
focus.
so the studies have been that people are doodling on the phone or in meetings are retaining 29% more information than people that are not. So
Ooh, love
doodling,
that.
doodling is used all kinds of different ways, and there's no right or wrong way. There's no judgment involved. This is like actually something that there's no judgment needed. It's again, process, being able to bring you into the present moment, activate the inner creativity, which we all have. And that word creativity, meaning that part of ourselves that sometimes gets hidden. And that's vital to our vitality and joy in life.
Melissa, I always love hearing from you and your perspective and our conversations. We've had a few of them over the years. Where can people go to learn more about you if they're curious about what you do?
Absolutely. Well, you are able to reach out to me if you're looking for to instill the doodling habit or just to be able to practice that as an individual. You can go to DoodleLovely.com, and that's where all the guided books are and different resources. And if you're looking to actually implement it into your team, we actually use mindful doodling processes, and so we help bring organizations. And real doodle breaks into the organization to build this habit out and really influence corporate culture in a creative and healthy way.
Oh, I
Then
love
that's on
that.
DoodleBreaks.com.
DoodleBreaks.com. And I'll put everything in the show notes wherever I'm posting this as
Yeah.
well, just so people can find it.
Yeah, and if you happen to be on Doodle Breaks and not Doodle Lovely, they actually all interconnect because they're all doodling. They're all doodling.
Anything else you would like to share with everyone as we kind of clue up together?
No, well, I guess actually I should say thank you very much for having me, Allison. And I love that you always, you put your tip of your pen to the page and use it in all different ways. And I hope this as well has brought a little bit more confidence and just opening people's minds to it doesn't have to be huge and profound. It's really about going back to simple things and this power of the pen and paper is really all you need to really ignite a whole lot of change and fulfillment inside.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Melissa.
Thank you.